Killers who showed no remorse to victims' families caught. The mind of a remorseless killer is a terrifying thing to look into, such as Michael Swanson, who killed two men deliberately and laughed about it in court. On November the 10th, in Iowa, 17-year-old Swanson walked into a gas station for some cigarettes, but with no intention to pay for them. Swanson wore a ski mask and threatened the 47-year-old cashier, Vicky Bauman Hall, and even though she complied and gave him what he wanted, he shot her anyway, in cold blood. Unfortunately, this was only the start of Swanson's reign of terror that night, as just an hour later, he shot and killed 61-year-old Sheila Myers inside another convenience store. He was arrested and trialed separately. In court, Swanson terrifyingly sat there with a cold, lifeless gaze at the victims' families after pleading guilty.
I then intentionally, deliberately, and with premeditation shot the clerk, causing her to die. I did this with a specific intent to kill her.
Hall was one of the victim's daughters, who broke down crying in court addressing Swanson, but Swanson just sat there completely indifferent. Suddenly...
So a defenseless woman, when you came in with that gun, you said you did it for cigarettes and money and so no one could identify you, but I think that's a lie.
Suddenly, though, he maniacally started laughing at the judge. With the defense of him being mentally unstable, Swanson received 2 life sentences for first-degree murder. But that's not even the end of the story. While you'd think serving 2 life sentences would deter anyone from committing more crimes, that didn't apply to Swanson, who stabbed another inmate in court, landing himself another 25 years. I hope he had a good sweet 16 birthday, because this teenager is never seeing the light outside a prison cell as an adult. Speaking of teenagers in prison, the next one is equally as terrifying. T.J. Lane, who terrorized an entire school and claimed 5 victims in a horrific shooting of Chardon High School in Ohio on February the 27th, 2021. It was an average boring day of school until everyone wished the boredom and peace had continued, when 17-year-old T.J. Lane suddenly started shooting at the cafeteria.
We had shots fired, gunshots, multiple gunshots. Multiple gunshots? Yes.
In his fit of madness, Lane killed Daniel Parmenter, Russell King, and Demetrius Hewlin. 2 more victims, Nick Welkazak and Joy Rickers, were shot and injured. After a heroic chase by a teacher and a football coach, Lane was arrested and put on trial. How could a child commit such heinous acts of violence and terror? A psychiatrist believed Lane suffered from extreme psychosis and hallucinations, but the judge still decided Lane was sane enough to stand in court. And he might have wished that he didn't, because Lane completely turned the court upside down when he took off his shirt, revealing a t-shirt with "killer" written on it. At least that was a simple enough guilty admission. This wasn't it though, as this obvious sociopath with no remorse for the victims' families present gave them the finger and said,
"Saying to pull the trigger to kill your son, masturbates to memory."
With no question whatsoever regarding his innocence, Lane received 3 life sentences without parole. But just like Lane, this story takes a wild turn in prison, when Lane, along with 2 others, escaped prison using a makeshift ladder. However, just a day later, Lane was recaptured and sent to the Supermax Ohio State Penitentiary. There, he can't hurt anyone else, literally, till the end of his life. Life sentences have become the maximum punishment criminals can get, but some push it even further, such as cop killers, like Luis Bracamontes,
and then you shot him right in the head and kept shooting.
who has been on the wrong side of the law since 1997, but sealed his fate in 2014 when he murdered Sheriff Deputy Danny Oliver and Detective Michael Davis during a carjacking spree. Bracamontes had been a thorn in the sides of law enforcement for decades, having been deported to Mexico twice for drug charges before. This time, however, deportation would have been too merciful, as after 4 years of court processes, Bracamontes finally got what he deserved. But beforehand, he had to make those court hearings as difficult as possible, constantly smiling and laughing at the charges, even bursting out and threatening to kill more.
Step out of the hallway.
Dead.
Louise gave off the confidence of a true gangster and even seemed proud of what he did, completely disregarding that they were cops and basking in the glory that they were dead. Throwing hissy fits wouldn't help him though, and he definitely won't be smiling for long when he received the death penalty recommendation in 2018. Was the smirking and laughing mockery a nervous tick, knowing that was coming? We'll let you be the judge of that. Continuing the pattern of brutal teenage murderers is Danto Wright.
Watching you sit there, smile, and laugh, and shake your head like this was no big deal, I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial.
Had the gall not only to take a mother's only son, but to smile right in her face about it. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, high school student Jordan Klee was walking peacefully when he got attacked by 3 criminals, including 17-year-old Danto Wright. It was supposed to be just a robbery, but Wright took it further when he, for no reason whatsoever, shot Klee in the head.
My name is Mr. Jordan Klee.
Shot him.
And where did you shoot him?
On the top. Isaiah.
And did you kill him with that shot?
Yes.
Wright's trial sparked uproars with the way he acted in court after pleading guilty. During a gut-wrenching statement from Klee's mum, Wright just sat there heartlessly smirking, rubbing his hands together and almost laughing.
More than that, I've lost laughter and love.
That one moment sent everyone over the edge more than the murder itself, including the judge, who threatened to take away his plea deal. It takes a very high level of provocativeness to make a judge lose his temper.
No big deal. I'm very tempted to just say, I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial. And if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there.
Wright wouldn't be smiling for very long, though, as he received 23 to 50 years for armed robbery, felony firearm possession, and second-degree murder. We have a feeling he won't be smirking like that until he's pushing 50 on the way out of prison. While some criminals are the result of tragedy or mistakes, some are simply pure evil. Like Ronnie ONeal III.
I tell you, this is the worst case ever in my life, and I have seen some horrors.
Who somehow had the heart to take the lives of his own daughter and her mother, as well as injure his son. In March 2018, a horrifying 911 call was made where screams could be heard, as well as a woman literally begging for her life, before a man could be heard claiming he was attacked by white demons, before admitting he killed his attacker. When police showed up, the crime scene was something out of a nightmarish horror movie. The house had been burned down. 33-year-old Kenyatta Barron lay unconscious, 9-year-old Ron Nevea was dead with hatchet wounds, and 8-year-old Ronnie ONeal IV was stabbed, saying that his dad shot his mum. The dad in question was Ronnie ONeal III, who was arrested and admitted to the murder, saying Kenyatta and their kids were devils. The court proceedings of ONeal were equally as bizarre, with ONeal representing himself, but he was far from a traditional lawyer. ONeal started cross-examining his own son like he was an unknown, but that entire segment of the hearing was extremely off-putting, and it seemed like he was playing mind games with his son, reminding him of the good times they used to have so he can elicit sympathy.
We're going to see who the liars are before it's all said and done. Mark my word.
During the final verdict, ONeal kept nodding and making strange noises the whole time, and even claiming he did the deed in self-defense.
I noticed that the Renevia's bedroom, before you set it on fire, you could tell she tried so hard to make her feel like a princess. Kenyatta did everything she could. And I noticed too in the kitchen.
Ultimately, Ronnie was charged with a fair number of charges, including first-degree murder and arson, and was given 3 life sentences. The whole time, Ronnie didn't show a glimpse of regret or remorse, just eyes of a killer with conviction.
Count 2 adjudicate you guilty, sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole, consecutive.